Hi, this is Mykal Harp. Today we are being joined by a client. I wanted her to tell her story, and I thought this would be valuable for anyone who is in a similar situation and get some firsthand report from a client on what it was like for them, what they had, how their process felt like going through this, and where she is today. So I want to introduce everyone to Deb. Hi, Deb.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me here today because your viewpoint is absolutely the most valuable information for those who are also searching to find assistance, and especially for someone who would be searching for the same kind of symptoms that you were experiencing. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing where you were when you were searching for somebody to help you, what got to you to that point, and what kind of symptoms you were experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for this opportunity. I've thought a lot about it in the past. Like I've always been pretty quiet, kind of kept to myself, my feelings and things of that nature. And I feel like with the way that 2020 has gone, I feel like it's a message that other people might want to hear, might need to hear. And I think there's a lot of people out there who kind of feel the same way that I did as well. So just a little bit about me, like I had been going through depression since the age of 15. I'm 37 years old now, so it is quite some time that I've been dealing with it. And I would go to traditional therapy, and a lot of it always circled back to let's medicate this issue. Let's get you in front of a psychiatrist. Let's try this drug. I've probably tried maybe 20 different drugs through all the years. On top of that, I had also been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. So it was also, they were trying to treat that as well. So through many therapy sessions, many drugs, things like that, I kind of had this belief that, okay, I need to be on medication in order to function, in order to survive in this world with these conditions. I felt like I took ownership of those conditions and they kind of defined me. And I hate to put it like this, but what I was capable of. So this year, as I mentioned, has been really tough. The medication, the therapy, the depression, the anxiety never really went away. It still stuck around. And this year, especially with all the things going on, I think it was probably about March that it really hit deep, that I didn't feel right. And I started to examine things as far as, okay, if I'm on these medications, why do I still feel like this? And then that leads me to, okay, what externally outside of me is affecting me? What are the things that I need to pay attention to that maybe I can change? The medication is not changing it, so what can I do? So that kind of outward reflection onto the things in my life helped me tremendously and realize, okay, I'm in a bad place. And realistically, if I'm being honest with myself, the things that are keeping me here on this earth that are, I hate to use the word, but the things that are keeping me from suicide or, something dramatic is I could list on two fingers essentially. And when those two things are gone, what happens then? What am I living for? And it led me down this path of questioning so many things. And
so can I ask a quick question? Now, you were experiencing a lot of suicidal thoughts, is that right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I was at my end, and for all these years, I wouldn't say that's a new concept that came up in 2020. But I mean, like I mentioned, I just always had this, okay, I had this ability to find something to keep me here. So that when I'm in the midst of my depression, when I'm having my biggest breakdown, I reflect on that one thing. And to be completely open, transparent, and honest, like I've got an elderly grandmother who has a lot of health issues. And I have kind of put that on her of I have to be here for her. I have to be here to fill insulin needles, to, be power of attorney, to see things through the way that she wants them seen through. And then it got me thinking, what happens when she is no longer here?
Wow,
What
that's
about,
a big question, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. And then it really helps you. I mean, it helps me see that I placed a lot of focus on external things. When in reality, I probably should have been, at this point, I can look back and say I should have been putting all that analyzation on myself, not putting that power into something else or anybody else. It should have been here with me.
Hmm.
Uh,
So here
and
you are dealing with the generalized anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. You're on medication, and
right.
it sounds like it was a really low point for you, right?
I reached out to a number of practitioners actually, and it was important to me that I got a good vibe off of the person who responded, because if I was going to do this, I really wanted to go all in. Luckily, you responded, and I absolutely loved your response. Your energy, you're so just vibrant and just comfortable. It was great, and it was a big contrast to other people that I had heard back from. So it's funny because people ask me, well, what do you do when you go see Mykal? And I explained to them, like, I don't even know how to put into words, like, because there I go, when we get in a room together, and it's like it brings to the forefront anything that I guess I didn't know we needed to talk about. Well, apparently we did. And I walk away with a higher understanding, and it was highly beneficial. Thank
So
you.
after that first session that we had, what happened?
So I want to go back to the first session.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think it's important to put this out there. So I went in with really no expectations, just, I am along for the ride. You tell me what I need to do, and let's get it done. At that point, I had nothing to lose. And when we did an energy cleansing in the first session, and it was unlike anything that I've ever experienced. I'll go out on a limb and I'll say it felt very different. But at the same time, again, I was highly committed to this. And afterwards, I remember I got in my car and I'm thinking, I don't know what just happened in that office, but something happened. I'm not exactly sure how she did that, but I do feel different. And I cannot deny that at all. So throughout the next week, I believe the energy cleanse has everything to do with it, with just being more clear-headed, able to analyze more than what I have previously been able to kind of comprehend and follow in regards to myself, like how I react to things, how I internalize things, and even the depression itself. That was the first time I felt like I've got a fighting chance here. I've got a good chance.
And if my memory's correct, and please tell me if it is or not, was that when you came back to that second session, you were talking about how you had felt much lighter, the depression and the suicidal things had really lifted. And the other comment, though, and I always find this comment interesting, and I hear it on a regular basis, was it was almost like you felt lost because the dynamics of your inner realm had shifted so much. You weren't quite sure what to do in this new realm. Like you were so used to the anxiety and the depression that I think you might have even used the word nothingness, that there was nothing. And you were like, what do I do with nothing? Like you've always had the anxiety, you've always had the depression, right? And now you're like, what is this? This thing that's nothingness.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, I gained this empowerment. That first of all, I think what it ingrained in me that first session was that I have the ability and I have the power to handle this. I don't need for my situation, I didn't need the medication to numb me. I needed to learn how to sit in it, and I needed to learn how to tell it I'm in control, not you. And also, I think one thing that helped me tremendously was being able to step outside of my thoughts and just say, I'm having this thought, but this doesn't mean it's me. It does not mean that it is coming from me inside. It's just a thought, and I'm going to view it that way. And then I'm going to basically explain to that thought that you're not of me. Get out of here. And I actually felt like I was empowered to do that. And I was frustrated because I wasn't having those thoughts. I was like, I'm ready to fight it. Where's it at? Come on.
Right.
So I'm standing there with my sword waiting for it. And I don't think it came through at all that first week. I think I was just my energy was just so high in the empowerment. But I do remember by the second week, I did have an episode, and it was easily handled for the most part. I had an evening where I was down, but at the end of the day, I needed that because I needed to put this to practice.
Yeah, so. There's so much truth in that because, there, you can soar high, but it's almost like what I've experienced with a lot of clients is it's almost like, all right, let's have a little test of a challenge that if you are presented with the thing that would usually tear you down and take you down really severely, how is she going to do now? And it does feel sometimes like they do this almost on purpose to help you build the muscle of having to deal with it in your new energy. And so in that new energy, how was that different? You're dealing with that challenge. We're still living, right? We still have these experiences, these challenges. Just because you're coming to see me doesn't mean you're not going to have those challenges out in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes from empowerment and truth. Like I was able to step back a little bit and say, number one, I am empowered to handle this. Number one, it's internalized. It's all through me. Like nobody else is dictating this mind. This is me. I have the power. Nobody can step in there and say, Dad, think this way, think that way. So if I'm having these thoughts, I need to kind of step up and increase my own power within myself. And that doesn't mean not to analyze it, because I would analyze it and say, well, why am I feeling this way? Why did this thought come through my mind? What happened to provoke it? And then kind of learn about myself that way too.
Yeah, and isn't that the same week that you were challenged in a personal relationship and you dealt with it maybe in a way that you had never done before?
Yeah.
Share anything about that? Because to me, what I saw was you had a new strength of stepping into something that you kind of knew what you needed to do, but you hadn't really been stepping up to do it before. Is that fair to say?
I definitely think that that's fair to say. Yeah. I had a lot of fear. And I think that through the years, it's kind of ingrained to me to be a people pleaser. And in this new power, it helps me reflect on what I would originally do to please somebody versus what I truly feel in my heart I need to do and how I need to handle it and what I need.
There you go.
And I think that was a big step for me to take a look too and say, at the end of the day, I am not responsible for anybody or anything in this world. I forgive myself for my shortcomings. I'm a human. Everybody has made mistakes. I don't hate myself for those mistakes. And at the end of the day, I'm going to hold myself responsible and accountable for what I do actually do. And I'm going to reflect on whether or not it's a true, powerful intention or, for the best. And I learned how to look at that and say, this is what I need, and voice that. And I think a big help that you gave me was imagine yourself having the conversation. You know what I mean? Imagine yourself standing up and saying, hey, I need A, B, and C. And then what's it feel like afterwards? And I think that was pretty empowering, and it took away a lot of the anxiety of having the difficult conversation. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and once you had that difficult conversation, how did you feel afterwards?
Light as a feather. I hate to say it that extreme, but in all my heart, it wasn't a great conversation to have. But at the end of the day, I feel it was such a relief. It was something that I didn't know I had been carrying around. I didn't even realize that I had that in the back of my mind, and so much fear holding me back from having the conversation. And then it's just a relief once you do it. So yeah.
Feels so good, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I don't even know what my worst case scenario was behind the fear, but nothing bad happened.
Yeah, the reality of it was not nearly as bad as the anticipatory fear of it. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And even so, I think I got to a point where I was able to trust myself. I'm gonna do what's best for me in any situation. And literally, you can. This is the way I feel. You could take my house from me, take my car, take my job. And no matter what you take from me, I'm still going to be true to myself, and I'm going to trust myself that I will find a way to get to where I need to be without anything or anybody. Not that I don't want people in my life and things, I do, of course, but at the end of the day, I trust myself.
Love that.
That's something I didn't have before.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then whatever you want to share about, through the rest of our sessions and where you are today would be great.
So where I am today, I'm still very inquisitive. And there's still
so full of questions.
There's so much out there that like I have so many questions about. And I'm curious on hearing different viewpoints, different things, different sides, because I feel like everybody has a different truth to it. And I feel like that's relevant, and I feel like that's important. Because obviously if I listen to 20 people, like I want to be able to walk away with what's true to me, not just what's true to somebody else. So I'm on that quest kind of to learn as much as I possibly can. And through our sessions, I always felt like I needed a reason. What's my reason? What's my purpose? Do you remember what you told me?
No.
So I put you on the spot with that one.
I know, right? Zone in the session, and in many ways, I'm in my own level of trance, downloading information and giving it. So, you come out of that and it's like a different realm. But no, now I'm curious about what wise words did I share?
I'm gonna tell you, the answer was so disappointing in the moment that I know my jaw dropped, because I was like, this has got to be a joke. Are you kidding me? Where's the Ashton Kutcher and being pumped? You said it's just to be. It's just to be. And that kind of resonated with me so hard after the disappointment set in. Because, I wanted an answer like bigger than that.
There's nothing bigger though. And I think you might be getting that now. Like we want to know we are going to be standing on the podium with a gold, medal that we've won because we've done so well at doing X, Y, and Z. Where in reality, it's in this moment, our power.
Yeah.
This moment.
So I kind of looked at it as, okay, if I'm supposed to be, then what am I going to be? Right. And there's not a real answer.
Yeah, but see, isn't that the beauty of it? And I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, because I really want to make the point about it's just to be. And because if you had got the answer of what is your purpose, and you had been told to be Queen of England, I don't know, right? But it's an objective that is out in the future somewhere. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden you're like thinking, what do I have to do to get to be what I'm really meant to be? When in reality, to be what you're meant to be is in this moment. And it is moment from moment. And when you're in that reception of being you, the best you in that moment, it's going to automatically take you to your ultimate purpose easily and effortlessly. And you're already living up to the best you in that moment instead of trying to live for the future you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you 2000% on that now. And
Now.
also, yeah, in the moment, no, I was like, what? but no, I feel like I'm there now. I'm content. And again, it also goes back to that whole trust thing. You know, once that chain met with just be, if I trust myself to just be, I'm going to be fine. Like I'm doing what I need to do. And I think a large part of that too is, I mean, just vibrations. We talk about energy vibrations, things like that. I have a great way of not coming undone in situations. I mean, especially with everything that's happening in 2020. I feel like now it's more important than ever for people to be their authentic, kind, energetic, loving people themselves. And I feel like I'm starting to fall into that. And so when you say just be, in the moment I was upset. In this moment, I feel like this is the best advice I've ever gotten, because now I can say hey to strangers, and be exciting and just know, hey, I'm doing my part here. I'm just being me.
So
I feel like I've got a lot to do, and I'm eager to look forward to seeing what doors open up, what direction, life takes me in. And I've got enough trust in myself to know that I'm going to be okay.
and
So,
I love that word that you just used, because I think that's the biggest difference that I see in you between the two sessions. Is in our first session, you were in pain.
yes.
And by now, when I see you, you have this eagerness and this curiosity. And instead of being really introspective and suffering, you're you're now like shining outward and curious and discovering and asking questions and lifting up rocks looking for answers. Where before I felt like you wanted the answer, but you were in such pain that it was, I think there was still this training of what we get from our Western philosophy within healing, which is that there's a pill to fix it. It's just going to take this pill that's going to be magical and take away everything. Where now you're in this understanding that this is not a magic pill experience. This is about learning about who you are and expressing yourself and resolving all your past so that you can live joyfully. No, I always say inner peace and outer joy. When I look at you now, I see so much more outer joy in you and so much more inner peace. You're right. We're always going to have things. We're not going to be ever in a life where there is not any challenges, because that's what humans are. We are here to face our challenges. But how you said that you trust yourself now to handle those challenges, that to me is the big shift now. Like, you're like, I've kind of got the muscles. I've been building up my muscles and I've seen that I can do this now.
Yeah.
I feel so much more capable now than I did before.
And I think a big thing too, one of the things that people with depression, I mean, speaking for myself, I always, like I said, I almost felt like I was wearing it as a badge, because I had been put in that label, and I experienced that feeling so often, that I felt like, okay, I've got to come to terms with this. This makes me different from everybody else. And looking back, I don't necessarily think that I was different than everybody else. I feel like everybody else probably experiences, the depressed feeling, things of that nature. It's the work that we do and what we do for ourselves that kind of separates us from actually being depression versus being human and living the experience, the full experience that we're supposed to be living. So
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Well, I love seeing your bright smiling face.
thank you.
Yeah. So, and I also know, one of the joys as we were working through our sessions were you were always full of questions. And I know that your questions are the same questions that other people have. And
Right.
so I wanted to invite you, as we had talked about, to go ahead and ask whatever question that you have, and we'll just go with an ad hoc Q&A here about anything that you have, because I know that whatever you come up with, there's other people that also have that same inquiry. So go for it. Let's hear what kind of stuff you might have for us.
So the first thing I want to ask you, and I know we've just talked a lot about depression, but it's just so important to me, in my opinion, right now, because of the way the world is. I feel like, yeah, there's many people out there in the same position that I was in.
Absolutely.
Tell me, from your point of view, what is depression? You go to a psychiatrist and they say, oh, it's a chemical imbalance, things of that nature. But on the spiritual side of things, what is depression for you?
What a great question. I mean, it really is. It's truly a great question. So anytime that we are not feeling inner peace, and depression is that we're not at peace with ourselves, right? Something doesn't feel right. It is a conflict between, if you can imagine that there is a higher self or a soul aspect that loves you unconditionally. And at a soul level, you know that. Like at a soul level, you know you are love incarnate, that you can do no wrong. And then there's the human aspect that is judging what you've done in life. And when those two do not agree, that inner conflict can come about as depression. So let me give you an example of that. So if you were to, let's see, I'm pulling up my, past experiences with people. And yet I also, when I'm in my office and I'm sitting here in this realm, I start getting downloads of really I have what I want to share, and what they start coming in and telling me what I need to share. So I'm like, really? I'm having that conversation when I was like, really? But apparently I need to share my own experiences. And so that's really my authenticity, right? To learn how to reveal everything about me and to be okay with it. So like I've had those moments of depression too, where God, you're just so frustrated. And I tell you, the last couple of weeks, even I have been feeling this depression. And it is when I go inside, you have to look inside and going, okay, if I were to love myself unconditionally, what would I do? Or let's see, sorry, I need to verbalize this very succinctly because I want this message to be understood. If we have a higher level aspect of ourselves, that soul aspect, and that soul aspect has no judgment on us, it truly just loves us unconditionally. But then we have the human aspect that does judge our experiences. And we carry with us old wounds that sometimes we recognize and sometimes we don't recognize. And those wounds can be as clouds or darkness within your energetic field. And that can come through old emotional trauma. It can come through past life issues, again, old emotional or old vows. Like I had a client one time who had vowed to never have children because she had a really bad experience in that lifetime. When she's in today's lifetime, she wants children and she couldn't understand why she couldn't have children. Old vows carry through until you release them. So in a session, we were able to release that vow so that she could clear her energetic field into be receipt of having children. All right. So these old things that we have in our energetic, whether it's coming from our childhood, whether it's coming from old past lives, whether it's coming from even our ancestral DNA, they all kind of accumulate in that energetic field. So when I say that I have a belief of not being good enough, it's not a conscious belief necessarily, because I can tell you right now, I absolutely believe that I'm good enough. But there's some kind of old residue within my energetic field about not being good enough. And when that belief of not being good enough is being confronted by unconditional love, they are not in sync with one another. And it's like they fight, they're in conflict.
Mhm.
That conflict is what creates depression. Because if you were able to dissolve the belief of not being good enough, the unconditional love shines through everything. It's not, it's now shining through where that fog, that darkness was in your system. So now that fog, when you can let that go, that belief go, even though you may not even realize that you had it consciously, if you can just let that belief go and absorb and accept unconditional love from self, from soul source into yourself, then that inner conflict goes away. So when I have that first session with a client and I talk about energy clearing, that's what we're doing. We are able to clear your energetic field to a huge degree without even you being aware of what that cloudy residue is in your energetic field. And it's why I like to do that first one on that first session, because it's the easiest way to get rid of a lot of garbage that's not serving you. And it wants to go. It just needs your intention. And your intention is the result of you coming into the session, right? You were so determined to find the relief from your symptoms that you exhibited your intention by making that an appointment and showing up and going, damn it, I'm tired of this. I don't know what to do, but I'm tired of this. And me being, that's what as the practitioner can go, okay, let's clear off any of the negative energy that doesn't serve you. And that's why you felt so much lighter after that first session, because you got rid of a lot of just stuff that had been stuck on you unknowingly, not consciously, right? This is just completely unconsciously. And then once you get rid of that first layer of stuck energy, the return sessions is to go deeper. Now we've got rid of the first layer. It's like an onion. We're going to peel back the next layer and the next layer and the next layer. And that's why you feel stronger and stronger and stronger over time. It's because you're removing the residual grayness within your energy field and accepting more and more of your own inner light. And when you accept that inner light, you become more clear. You become more stronger to do the things that you know that you need to do. And then what the beauty of that is it starts giving your left brain, that brain that wants to question everything that you're doing and why you're doing it, the evidence it needs to go, something's going on here. I'm feeling better, but the left brain wants to analyze, why am I feeling better? Because it doesn't really trust it, right? So it's analyzing, going, what just happened here? But the left brain is only really capable of understanding what's happened in this lifetime, in the physical reality, where the stuff that we're dealing with isn't necessarily, sometimes it's this lifetime, but it's not always this lifetime. So it has a hard time wrapping its little left brain around what's going on because it doesn't have the evidence that it's used to finding. And, in our society, we're very much about the proof, and we're wanting the evidence, and we want the scientific, experiments. But you are your own best scientific experiment, right? And as you clear up, you're looking for the evidence, and that left brain, well, you find it, but you kind of have to tell the left brain, going, no, I really do feel better, and this, and this. And the more you reassure the left brain, the more it relaxes into accepting this new dynamic of what's going on.
Yeah.
So did that make sense?
It does. And just, I'm going to throw it out there on that first session. And I think even the second session, we did a little bit of energy cleanse. And one of the hardest things for me was to we get to the point where we're characterizing it, what shape, color, things of that nature, and texture. And then you're like, are you ready to let it go? And then I'm like, I don't know, because I need to figure out what this is. Like I need to analyze this. Is this a childhood trauma? Is this something, that happened in third grade? What is this? And why does it need to go? I felt like, okay, whatever it is, it needs to go. But,
Yeah, so that's the left brain, right? It's like
yeah.
analyzing, going, well, what am I letting go? And it's really common for clients to go, well, I'm not sure I want to let go of it because I'm not sure what it is. And so what I always want to reassure everyone on is that if we are in a session, and when we are in a session, we have aligned our higher selves, we've brought in our spiritual team members, and we have set the intention. The intention being, it can be anything. Maybe it's, I want to be released from depression, right? I want to feel better. Now, if that's your intention, we are absolutely within this cocoon of, I know, and that's what I want to assure everyone else is that we absolutely know within that cocoon, when we've brought in our higher selves, when we've protected the room, we've got our spiritual teams, and we have a clear intention, that everything that's happening in this room is really per and through your higher self, which means that it's highly protected, that it can't be influenced from negative energies, that anything that we're doing is only releasing things that don't serve you. So we're never releasing good stuff. We're never releasing love. We're never, we're not releasing anything that is beneficial for you. We're only releasing negative aspects.
Yeah.
Now, that left brain, though, wants to know, well, what was that negative aspect? Maybe I want to assess that negative aspect.
Yeah.
And, I'm just trying to make the most of a time. I'm trying to do you all a favor and get as much done within our time together as possible, because a lot of times you don't have to know. And so I try to go, let's just get rid of it without knowing, because it doesn't serve you. This is what we know in this safe container. We know if it has come forward to be released, it's not serving you. So I love that you're sharing that, though, because, I call that resistance. And the resistance can come from a lot of factors. That you're talking about, that need to want to know, that's an egoic factor or a left brain factor. It wants control of the situation, right? And but there is the possibility, and what I invite people to do is to be in the flow of it and just allow yourself to receive the greatest benefit here without having to control the situation. But it's tough for us to just allow and to trust, right? But that in itself is an inner conflict, that you're not trusting your own inner soul source to know that it is the best thing for you in this moment, because that's what's guiding these sessions. When you're talking about, when we're putting the terminology around what we're letting go, we're asking how big is it, what the color, what the shape, the texture. It's come up in that session because it's time to let it go. And it's then guided by your higher self, your soul source, that's the thing, right? So when you are questioning it, you're in many ways trying to control the situation, and you're not trusting that soul source aspect of yourself. Where if you did and just let it go, you would be releasing so much more, so much faster. Now, there's other reasons for resistance also, right? But there are always these layers of what could be let go, and then whether that was easy or hard or resistance. And what I want to share is that it's really common, and it's nothing that we judge. It's really good to know if you're in resistance to it, because we need to know that what, if we know we're trying to get rid of this one thing and there's resistance to it. Well, let's go to find the resistance, because if you can think of resistance, and I think this is, we had talked about this. I think this is where I use this analogy as a flower, right? That the resistance are the roots that are really dug deep into holding on to this. and the flower being the shining, the symptom, the bloom, the symptom. So like if you were suffering depression, that's the bloom, right? That's what's being shown to the world. And then you have the stalk and all the leaves with all these symptoms, you know, the suicidal thoughts, the anxiety, the stress, the things that you put on yourself. And then the roots being the really underlying core issue that's holding all of this into place. So when we can pull out those roots, that resistance, and that resistance is something as simple as I want to control the situation, right? When you let go of control and you let those roots are let go, now all of a sudden you've got rid of the resistance, you've got rid of all your symptoms, because it was all coming from that one place. Those roots, whatever they were creating all the symptoms and was creating the depression. Once you pull out the resistance, it's just like pulling out a weed by the roots. It's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I still love that analogy.